Ethics in faith. Be curious, ask questions, and eliminate biases and fallacies to have a fair understanding.
But yeah, please, Dr. Rashid, happy to take any questions now. Thanks for the time that you've given me today. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. We also had another Dr. Riyad join. I didn't let him introduce himself. Dr. Riyad, would you introduce yourself for a second, please?
Yes, I'm Dr. Rad Ajluni. I am a dentist by profession. I'm also a former university professor, and I have three young daughters. So it was really great presentation. So really appreciate the time and the effort that you all put into this.
Yes, no, thank you so much for being here today. In academia, it's also important. As you saw, she was a university student, so it's happening to especially young college students that want to make some money. We didn't have a lot of money in college. We weren't working, we were studying. So definitely, this is a group that I have a big passion for. So thank you.
Yeah, what little experience I had with the human trafficking, for about a month, it seemed like most of the victims are female. Is that the assessment? I mean, is that true, or is that?
Yeah, so the numbers, the data on that, they vary. Definitely the ones that a lot of sex trafficking victims are going to be female, but there are also males. But the thing with labor trafficking is that we see that once a labor trafficking ring is discovered in this country, especially when it comes to agricultural construction site, there's so many male victims that those kind of numbers go up and down, because we'll find, an entire farm that is labor trafficking victims, and then there is like 50 people there, and most of them are males. So those numbers kind of go up and down. But with labor trafficking, we do see a lot of male victims.
Well, that's true. But the sex trafficking is usually mostly female.
Yeah, females. A lot of people that are also LGBTQ communities. So that could be also male, but yeah, a lot of females involved. But yeah, those we do see numbers of male victims as well. But yeah,
So
females definitely.
Okay, when she said Rachel, she was talking. She said that about her first meeting, and he had a bar for her. So the bar means that they're gonna.
Yeah.
So did that mean she got paid for that, or he? I mean, it's kind of like he's pimping. He's a pimp, basically.
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah. So he was pimping her out, and then Rachel actually went on to become a recruiter for that person. So she was getting, some sort of exchange, whether it was money or luxury items. But yeah, victims are sometimes paid for what they are doing. Might not be a lot, or might be, a fancy Louis Vuitton belt or purse, or something of luxury, something like that. But yeah, some victims are going to be paid for what they do.
Okay, that's
Yeah. I have one question.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe sometimes that an educated girl, I mean, she already had a high school degree and probably first or second year in college, is not to pick up on, not necessarily pick up on that, but just not to go to the police and tell them,
Yeah, I mean, that threat that she must have had must have been big. And actually, Rachel ended up being rescued by police officers. Well, in a way, rescued. She was arrested for prostitution at once, and one of the detectives actually was smart enough to know what questions to kind of ask her to see what more was happening in her situation. And she opened up to that detective and eventually told him everything that she was going through. Rachel's now in a U.S. Advisory Council member.
okay.
So, yeah, she's now a part of that U.S. Advisory Council.
Well, that's good. At least she got out of it. That's
yeah. Yes.
Mr. Luke, I'm not sure if you can see the screen. We have some questions from chat.
Oh, yes. Hi, Dr. Sabir. So yeah, I definitely, the R. Kelly, in my professional opinion, that was definitely trafficking using coercion. He was coercing those victims. He was also, kind of defrauding them as well, like letting them know that, hey, this is a great opportunity for you, and hiding it as a music career. A lot of them, he was tricking them, into doing what he wanted, and in exchange for, hey, I can make you famous, I can make you this and that, because of his, his star kind of figure in the world. Really, R. Kelly was big. But yeah, R. Kelly has been charged with sex trafficking now. It's definitely one of those crimes that he has been charged with, and don't think he'll see the light of day. But yeah, he was defrauding them and coercing them for sure.
And for the guy have that much money, I mean, I'm assuming he probably is a multimillionaire or got a lot of
yeah.
money. Why would he go that? I mean, of course, I can't see inside a person's mind, but whenever you have all that money, you could, I don't know.
Yeah, hard to understand. Definitely he had a big problem, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was more of a.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think Dr. Najib also had a question.
Yes.
Just a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very nicely presented. Very nice presentation. Is very informative. The question which comes to my mind is that, which I believe is prevention is the best treatment, for this, to prevent this thing happening. And for prevention is the information. And this information is extremely important for everybody. So the question which is where we can use this information. So in my thinking, schools and religious places are the best place to inform the people, the young kids, because they don't know where they're going to walk into it. It's a talent program, things like that, and they are not knowing that this is going on because kids are naive in a lot of times. And so what are your experiences with the schools and religious places when you go over there, or how receptive they are? Because that's where, if they learn and school have a program like that, that will significantly reduce the number. So what are your experience with that?
Yeah, so great question. Yeah, definitely education is the number one way to prevent something. I totally agree. So different experiences with houses of worship and different kind of religious environments. I see that a lot of times they use kind of, our information and our sorts of presentations in like kind of community webinar series or community series. Like they'll have speakers on a variety of different subjects. And one of those, a lot of times, is human trafficking, just because it's something that is being seen and they are aware of. Houses of worship are definitely aware of that this is happening. Sometimes they're not the happiest to hear kind of our presentations, because we have to go into detail about, don't question that person about their situation. As it was mentioned about pimping out, yeah, they are, selling their bodies for another person. There's going to be a lot of shame, guilt, that goes alongside that crime. So people in houses of worship, sometimes think of it as a sin, kind of have that premarital relation, sex, what it may be. So it's important to kind of blur that out from, hey, that person's actually going through a lot of stuff and has been forced into doing those kind of sexual acts. So we're not, the biggest stars with houses of worship, but it's information that they need. But I've never gone once into a service or anything like that. It's usually they use us through these different series, like speaker series that they may have, or a lot of times they'll use us in January, which is Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So it's kind of a national time that anybody could use this kind of information. So a lot of houses of worship hit me up around January, and they're like, hey, we know it's Human Trafficking Prevention Month. We would love to do, one of these for our congregations. And for schools, Department of Education has to be the ones that set up a curriculum for public schools and charter schools. There is no curriculum for human trafficking awareness. A lot of work I've done are with entire counties, and I have to be the one that reaches out a lot of times to different counties. But what they'll do is usually during the summertime, when teachers are, on summer vacation, they're still required to do some sorts of trainings during the summer. So some school counties, entire counties, have reached out to us during summers to do one series similar to the one today, but of course with tailored content for teachers. And then we're able to hit all the teachers in a specific county. So that is one way that they've definitely had us. And then local, we're in the DC area. We engage a lot with Baltimore, Maryland, and the District of Columbia school systems. And we have done presentations for some of their high school students. So again, it goes by county. They'll have like 5 different schools, and we'll go to a library and we'll give them a presentation. Of course, it is watered down because, as I mentioned, you can't kind of be this flat out with a kid. They're going to tune out about conversations of human trafficking. So we talk to them more about exploitation, what they might feel, and what taken advantage of might look like, and what they might feel once they've been taken advantage of. So we frame it as exploitation. But kids, talking to kids about this is still, even though we kind of have training on this, it's still not easy to do. It's a lot of, asking questions with candy in hand. Like, all right, if you answer this, you'll get 5 pieces of chocolate or something. Definitely talking to students is not the easiest thing. In my personal opinion, I think the Department of Education should be doing more to establish a curriculum for kids in schools. But they have to be the ones doing it. They're the ones that are in the schools, not Department of Homeland Security. But, whenever we get reached out to by a school county or a school board, we step up to the plate.
So in your opinion, how old do you think you should introduce this to your kids? How old they should? I mean, like 5, 6, 7, what do you think?
I mean, from my experience, I think when a kid starts being able to operate the iPad and, the different games that are available on phones, and, I want to say 6, 5, it's good to at least start conversations on social media safety. Once they start using those kind of apps, that they could communicate with other people that they might not know. It's good to talk about social media safety, maybe not to jump into human trafficking, but to talk about like, hey, that person's not always going to be your friend on that gaming site. Right. Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, Officer Luque. Thank you. And if I may ask a question, I just wanted to, I had my hand raised, so I just want to make sure the coordinators are looking at it. I'll wait till I'm called upon, but I just wanted to know, I have a question for Officer Luque. So
please go ahead. Please go ahead. Okay.
Thank you. Officer Luque, this is AK Khan. I'm an administrator at a college and a university. And just to take Dr. Najib's point, and I think this is fundamentally so important for information to be provided to just children, teenagers on from purely the awareness standpoint. And then secondly, as to I'm assuming how they could deal with it, whatever dire situation they are in, because those are the resources that we need to provide to students so that they know there is an alternative for them, and then back it up with other support that may be needed, mental health support or financial support or food, whatever support that is for institutions and specifically in higher ed. And I'm actively, as an administrator, from a strategic standpoint, not just strategic standpoint, but even actionable operational standpoint that we deal with and that I deal with. What I want to ask is your presentation today, and I'm going to reach out to our student life to see what they are doing for just not in January for human traffic prevention, but on a consistent basis in engagement. So what does DHS or your agency have that when called upon does programming, from a presentation standpoint, but more detailed programming that we can carry on over a period of time, just not from education, prevention, but also this issue that we are having in our society, we can hopefully eradicate it, but if not, to get to a point where it is not as prevalent as it is right now.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you for they're eradicating. Everybody wants to eradicate this. It's just so hard to eradicate something that you could be born into, that a family could be trafficking you. But yeah, raising awareness is definitely a big piece to trying to stop this crime as much as possible. So I actually work under my portfolio with MSI, so minority serving institutions, those being historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, and tribal colleges and universities. There are a couple ways that we engage directly with not only student body, but also with staff, in order to kind of maintain that relationship and not just have a one-off sort of presentation. A variety of different ways. We have a toolkit directed towards students. It's our Student Leaders Advocate Toolkit, which encourages student body movement, so student-led awareness groups. We give them the information on how they could start their own awareness group on campus. I have a couple connections within the Virginia area, one of them being George Mason University, one of the biggest public research institutions in Virginia, that they have a student-led group, and they're continuing to pop up in different parts of the country. They're called the Freedom Connection. And through them, they actually encourage other groups within their universities, like the campus police officers, the Office of International Programs, so the kind of study abroad programs that other exchange students might come to the country. They all kind of set up meetings for them, like human trafficking awareness meetings, such as the one today. Another thing is that establishing partnerships with the Department of Homeland Security could go a long way. We could be guest lecturers for different programs. Student life, student government. Student government does a great job of establishing these kind of relationships with federal government in order to bring these kind of security sorts of trainings to their campus, because they are the ones that most likely deal with the student population. Also professors, a lot of faculties, from my experience, deal with criminal justice. There's a lot of criminal justice programs, social work programs as well. We've interacted a lot with social work departments to bring these kinds of trainings on a semester base. So every semester, once a new student group goes in, we get called a lot as well. I have a really good professional relationships with a lot of faculty members throughout the country that they know to call me or to call the Department of Homeland Security to have these sorts of trainings. But partnerships. Partnerships are very important. There are official ways to start partnerships with the Department of Homeland Security that don't require any money. I have a partnership agreement that we have signed with multiple institutions. That kind of gives us priority to, hey, this university is going to ask, for 4 presentations a year. Well, let's put them on the calendar. So we're able to kind of plan for the entire school year with that institution. As far as reporting protocols, universities have their own sorts of reporting protocols, depending on their campus police. Their campus police a lot of times also has reporting protocols. But we also do have specific presentations for campus law enforcement. If they do want more information at your institution, I'll be happy to connect. I have a colleague that deals directly with college law enforcement. And I know that they have, talked about reporting protocols and what are some things that they could implement to help the student body as well, if something does come up.
Right. Thank you so much for that for that insightful answer. Of course, Cleary is the compliance portion on that reporting, if at all reported. But let's just so that your presentation here, I'm in Minnesota, so this is more to do. You talked about national, so I'm assuming your portfolio is national.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. So I will. You should hear from me or my colleagues, because I want to see what is in place at our institutions, and having an articulation agreement or agreement with your department is something easily we could do, because I believe the work, the important work you are doing is important to get to folks at an earlier age, specifically in certain heinous areas that we are trying to prevent. And well, thank you for all that you're doing. This was wonderful. I appreciate this being organized and you presenting on a Sunday to us, just so that we can do those connections and get this more, get the community more involved. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. My email is in the chat box, and
yeah, I pulled it. I have it now. Thank you much.
Great. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Nothing on the chat.
Yeah, and thank you everybody in the chat box also for sharing your thoughts on the presentation. Truly appreciated. Dr. Rashid, yeah, I don't see any more questions. Just want to express gratitude one more time for having this presentation for your group. Anytime that I could be of service, could be of help, please let me know. This has been a delight.
I have one recommendation. I know the numbers you shared, the contact numbers. Sometimes we will not be able to memorize those.
Yeah.
So can somebody work to come up with a wording for those numbers so people can easily remember and share, because normally we are used to like call 911, but I saw you have like indicated not to call 911 in first instance, rather call those hotlines or like lines. So that would be a recommendation.
Yeah. And I do want to say a lot of the materials, all the materials we have, like that are available, like the key tag cards that you could put in your key, all of them also feature the reporting numbers and the website where to go. But yeah, definitely, no easy way to put the reporting options, but the websites are also super important because you could report directly on the website. But I will work on that in that part of the presentation to make it a little bit easier for people to remember. And also, I could share this presentation with you via PDF, if that could also be helpful once you send out the video to your attendees, to your participants.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be really helpful. I think if there are no other questions from anyone else, we really appreciate for your time and the information, the valuable information you have provided. And on behalf of Ethics in Faith and broader Muslim communities and educational institute, we thank you. And we look forward to work with you in future. At least I think from our case, we will come back to you almost at least once per year to get updates and any recommendation from you.
Happy to help, Dr. Rashid. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.